Good morning, everybody, and thank you very much for the introduction. I just want to start off by saying that I'm very thrilled to be here in this beautiful city of Budapest. It's my first time here. And I'm also very honored and thankful for this opportunity that I've been given to come up here today and present in front of all of you. So thank you very much once again to Tariq, to Tibor, to Sheila, and to everybody else that has helped me on my journey to get to where I am today and to be able to deliver this presentation to you today. All right, so surviving the AI testing apocalypse. This presentation is one that was not easy to prepare, primarily because this is a topic that can be very controversial in today's day and age. Nonetheless, it's a topic that I think we need to discuss and we need to think about very carefully. So without further ado, I'm going to ask all of you and all of us to step outside of our comfort zone for the next hour or so and really think critically and deeply about this problem. So a little bit about me first. I work at Ultima Software. I've been there for about 10 years. And during my time at Ultimate, I've been in a number of different positions and different capacities. I've been in the position of a software test engineer, a team lead, a test architect, and currently I'm a principal architect in quality. And what I focus on today is on emerging technology, specifically around testing, and looking at emerging technology and the research that's out there to see how it can potentially benefit our company. I've taken quite a bit of an interest in this intersection between artificial intelligence and testing. I recently completed my master's thesis in AI-driven test generation, and I'm also pursuing a PhD in the same topic. So this is a topic that's actually very important to me, and I'm very passionate in. All right, so apocalypse. This is a really strong word. So what exactly does it mean anyways? Well, an apocalypse is an event involving destruction or damage on a catastrophic scale. And there are many different types of apocalypses. So there could be a disease apocalypse, perhaps some global pandemic, a virus, a contagion, a runaway disease of some kind. How about a vanishing apocalypse, where perhaps some of us suddenly vanish and some of us stay behind? Or what about an alien abduction? That's another possible type of apocalypse. So I've heard that the Alien trilogy is actually a really good series of movies that I haven't ever actually watched, so I'll probably do that after this presentation. What about the zombies? So who here has played Resident Evil before? Oh, there's a lot of us. All right, it's actually one of my favorite video games. I'm a very avid video gamer. But yeah, the zombie apocalypse, totally possible, right? Or nuclear apocalypse, or perhaps some kind of natural disaster, some kind of flood. Okay, you're probably thinking, oh, hold on a second, this is getting a little bit grim right now. It's getting a little bit too dark. But there's at least one more that we have to consider. I forgot which one that is. Oh yeah. So you're telling me that not only do I have to worry about being abducted by aliens, zombies, catching the plague, or suddenly vanishing, but I also have to worry about the rise of the machines? Yes, I absolutely think that we need to worry about the rise of the machines. And what do I mean when I say the rise of the machines? Well, it's really about AI. It's about machine learning. We've all been hearing about this kind of nonstop recently, right? Even yesterday, we saw a lot of different discussions on AI and machine learning and a few talks on it as well. So I think one of the things that normally comes to mind, and one of the things that we're all fearful of here as testers, is will the artificial intelligence and will the machine learning put all of us out of a job? So it's this thing about hashtag no more testers. So this is definitely one of the fears. But I think there's an even greater fear than this, and that's hashtag no more humans, right? So we're building stronger and stronger AI each and every day, and there's research that's happening constantly. So if we're able to build superhuman intelligent machines, then you might wonder what happens to the humans. Do the machines win at that point? Good question, right? So I want to share with you a video that I think is really relevant to this particular discussion.
It's pretty clear we can almost eliminate car accidents with automation.
With each search, we train it to be better. Sometimes we type in the search and it tells us the answer before you've finished asking the question. You know, who is the president of Kazakhstan? And it'll just tell you. You don't have to go to the Kazakhstan national website to find out. Didn't used to be able to do that. A neural net is something very close to a simulation of how the brain works. It's very probabilistic, but with contextual relevance. The average person, they don't see killer robots going down the streets. They're like, what are you talking about? Man, we want to make sure that we don't have killer robots going down the street. Once they're going down the street, it is too late. Google acquired DeepMind several years ago. DeepMind operates as a semi-independent subsidiary of Google. The thing that makes DeepMind unique is that DeepMind is absolutely focused on creating digital superintelligence, an AI that is vastly smarter than any human on Earth and ultimately smarter than all humans on Earth combined. I mean, the DeepMind system can win at any game. It can already beat all the original Atari games. It is superhuman. It plays the games at super speed in less than a minute. DeepMind's AI has administrator-level access to Google's servers to optimize energy usage at the data centers. However, this could be an unintentional Trojan horse. DeepMind has to have complete control of the data centers, so with a little software update, that AI could take complete control of the whole Google system, which means they can do anything. They can look at all your data, they can do anything. We're rapidly headed towards digital superintelligence that far exceeds any human. I think it's very obvious. AI doesn't have to be evil to destroy humanity. If AI has a goal and humanity just happens to be in the way, it will destroy humanity as a matter of course, without even thinking about it. No hard feelings. It's just like if we're building a road and an anthill happens to be in the way, we don't hate ants. We're just building a road. And so goodbye anthill. We have 5 years. I think digital superintelligence will happen in my lifetime. 100%. I think it's incredibly important that AI not be other. It must be us. And I could be wrong about what I'm saying. I'm certainly open to ideas if anybody can suggest a path that's better. But I think we're really going to have to either merge with AI or be left behind.
Right, so I think there are a lot of thought-provoking messages in this video, but one thing that stands out to me the most is this whole thing about the ants, right? So if we're building a road, then we don't have anything against ants, but if there are anthills in the way, then it's goodbye anthill because we're building the road and that's our goal. And when you start to think about it, if we have superhuman intelligence, then maybe one day we will be the ants, right? And that's really scary to think about. So today, I want to talk about survival. And I want to talk about survival at multiple different levels. Not just the AI testing apocalypse, but also survival for humanity and survival from this doomsday possibility, right? Because I actually believe that if we do invent superhuman intelligent machines, that it will be our last invention at that point. But I want to take a step back. Okay. Well, sorry about that. Let's see here. Okay. All right, so I want to take a step back, and I want us to, let's reel us back in for a moment, because I think right now there's maybe a little bit of fear in our minds. And I want to take a step back and think about all of the exciting things that make this technology really, really cool, really awesome, really exciting, and really amazing. So the first time that I actually stepped into a self-driving car, so I'm a really big fan of automation, all things automation, test automation, awesome, really cool. But the first time I stepped into a self-driving car, I had a little bit of a tug of war, little mental tug of war between, wow, this is amazing, and whoa, hang on a second. Machines should not be able to do this. You see, with all other automation that I have looked at in the past, I can always put a breakpoint, I could always look at the stack trace, and I could always figure out precisely what the program is that is causing the automation to behave the way it's behaving. You can't really do that with AI. Even the experts that are building these AI systems do not really have a good way to explain what the AI is doing and why it is doing it. So at that point, for me, it started to feel like magic. And while the technology, yes, it is scary, I think there's a huge opportunity for us in this technology to become more efficient and to evolve at the tasks that we do today. All right, so I do want to share with you some of the more recent advances in AI and machine learning, just so that you can make your own judgment as to where we are today, where we came from, and where we're headed with AI, and perhaps how long it'll take us to get there. So you're probably thinking, what is the most important problem that we can be trying to solve with AI and machine learning? I think it's this one. So given a picture of my cat or my dog, can we train an AI to tell me the breed of cat or the breed of dog that's on the picture? Okay, fine. Maybe that's not the most important application of AI and ML, but it's one that I think we're all probably aware of. And yes, computer vision has been around for quite a long time, research in computer vision, but only recently has it started to enjoy some of the benefits that come with this technology. So let's keep that in mind. So we can do this with images, but did you know that AI is also capable of generating music? Yes, that's right. So OpenAI actually created MuseNet, which is a deep neural network that is capable of composing 4-minute musical compositions using a variety of different instruments, actually up to 10 instruments. But don't just take my word for it. Here, have a listen. Isn't that amazing? That is pretty awesome. And if you can actually download this and take a look at it yourself. And one of the really astounding things about this particular AI is that nobody actually sat down and told the AI that, hey, this instrument works really well with that instrument. It actually figured this out all on its own using the training data that was provided to it. And that's really amazing. So now I think we can start saying that AI is starting to become creative. There's also a lot of advances in natural language processing, or NLP for short. We can do things like language translation, text-to-speech, sentiment analysis, even generate brand new text. But did you know that some of these technologies and some of these techniques can also be extended to programming? So what I'm about to show you is an example of an AI that was trained on millions of public GitHub repositories. So it looked at all this bunch of code. And what OpenAI did is they actually created a context-aware, semantic-aware code recommendation system. So here's actually a really short video of a developer writing a string concatenation function. And while they're writing this function, the AI is actually providing very intelligent suggestions. In some cases, it almost completely writes the program for the developer because it's seen many examples of this type of function across many different programming languages. So when I look at something like this, I think it's not far-fetched that one day, very soon, we'll have AI that's actually writing programs for us. And that is pretty scary, right? But also pretty cool. All right, so I'm sure some of you have heard of AlphaGo. This is from DeepMind. And AlphaGo, a couple of years ago, was able to defeat the world champion in the ancient board game of Go. Well, this is actually an example of AlphaStar. And AlphaStar is an AI built also by DeepMind that is able to play the real-time strategy game StarCraft 2. And this is actually the AI playing, and it's playing at almost human-level, professional human-level performance. And one of the really interesting things is that at the beginning of this match against an actual human player, the AI said, "Hey, good luck, have fun." So perhaps the AI is starting to show some feelings as well. What about these robotic arms? So these robotic arms are actually somewhere off in a research lab at Google. And what these arms are doing is they're learning. They're learning how to grasp and pick up a random object from this tray of objects, and they're getting better and better at it every single time they try to do it. And this is called reinforcement learning, where every time they do a great job of picking up that object, the algorithm gives it a little bit of reward so that it knows, hey, I did it the right way. And the really cool thing about this is that reinforcement learning tends to take a long time. You have to run it for a very, very long time. It takes many, many iterations. But what Google has done is they've distributed it. So all of these arms, at the end of the day, they download all of that training information, all of those experiences from each of those arms, and they combine it together, and they use it to teach all of the arms. So they're actually learning together, which is very, very cool. What about self-driving cars? I'm sure this is not a new concept to any of us, but did you know that you can actually hop on a plane and go to the US and Arizona and order a taxi and actually be picked up by a car that is self-driving? I'm serious, there's nobody in the car except for you. So these things are actually starting to go into production. And that's actually kind of scary. Who tested this? You should be questioning that. But there are also even more important applications, in my opinion, of AI and machine learning, and that's in the medical field. So if you're diabetic, then you know that once a year you need to go and get your vision checked for early signs of early onset diabetic retinopathy, which is a condition that could potentially lead to partial or complete blindness if you don't take care of it. Thankfully, it's completely preventable as long as you catch it early. The problem is that it requires a very high-level specialized training skill set to be able to actually determine from a visual eye scan whether those signs are present. And there aren't many retinal specialists in the world. So a couple of years ago, actually last year, 2018, a group of researchers looked at trying to create an AI that was able to do this task. And they were pretty successful. They actually created an AI that was as accurate as the retinal specialists at actually doing this task, which is really astounding, but also not actually very surprising to me, because we know we can take images and we know we can get information from images. It's a computer vision problem, which has been really well studied by now. But the really, really interesting thing is that as part of this same study, guess what happened? It turns out that from the same visual scan of an eye, we can also predict the patient's gender, the patient's age, their systolic and their diastolic blood pressure, whether or not they have cardiovascular disease or are at risk for it, all from that one visual eye scan. Doctors didn't know this. We actually didn't know this. Guess who figured this out? Actually, it was the AI that figured this out. So while they were doing this research, the AI found these connections that we didn't know about. So not only are we teaching the AI, but now they're starting to teach us as well. And this is really recent. This is the Gartner hype cycle for emerging technology that was recently published in August of this year. I'm sorry if you can't see this all the way in the back, but if you look at essentially the curve on the left-hand side, all the emerging technologies that are currently rising, a good deal of them, a very large percentage of them, are actually around AI and machine learning. So we've got things like emotion AI, explainable AI, transfer learning, generative adversarial networks, and the list goes on and on and on. So all of this tells me, beyond the shadow of a doubt, that AI is here. AI is not something that's going to show up tomorrow or a year or 5 years from now. It's something that's already here today, right now. AI is everywhere. So I just gave you a number of different examples on different industries that AI is currently taking a part of and disrupting. It's also really important. You saw some of the applications of AI that can actually render a medical diagnosis. It's not going anywhere. As is evident by the Gartner hype cycle, it's only going to continue growing. But maybe you're still a skeptic about whether or not AI is capable of transforming the testing industry as we know it today. So let me remind you of some of the companies that are currently looking at this particular problem, some of which are actually here at this conference with us and have provided some presentations to us. These companies are starting to propel us away from the current state of the art, where we have to sit down and spend a lot of time writing and maintaining test automation, and they're propelling us towards a future where test automation is easier to write, where it's self-healing in some cases, and in even some cases, we're generating autonomously new test cases and executing them without us having to define the test cases up front. I'm not sure what just happened there. Okay, so I want to share with you a quote by Dr. Andrew Ng. If you don't know Andrew, he's actually one of the pioneers in deep learning, and he believes that AI is the new electricity. And he says, just as electricity transformed almost everything 100 years ago, today I actually have a hard time thinking of an industry that I don't think AI will transform in the next several years. And that hits right at home for us, especially in the testing space. Dr. Geoffrey Hinton, if you haven't heard of him, he's considered by many to be the godfather of modern artificial intelligence. And he actually recently received an award, Nobel Prize actually, not just any award, along with his colleagues Dr. Joshua Bengio and Dr. Jan LeCun for their work on deep learning. And deep learning is essentially a subfield of machine learning that focuses on really complex, really large neural networks that are capable of learning complex functions. Here's what he has to say. I think we should think of AI as the intellectual equivalent of a backhoe. It will be much better than us at a lot of things. So don't just take my word for it. Don't take it from me. These are the experts, the people that are pioneers in this space, telling us what they think. So again, all of this tells me that AI is real. And AI is also scary. And it's exciting. But there's a really real possibility here that if we do build superhuman intelligent machines one day, that perhaps we will get left behind. And so I want to talk about what it will take for us to make sure that we go along for the ride. So the question is, could we survive? And could we survive at multiple levels? Again, not just the AI testing apocalypse, but the robot apocalypse altogether. All right, so I want to take a step back again, take a deep breath here, catch ourselves. And I want to remind us that this phenomenon of this explosion in technology is nothing new for us as a human race. Humanity has already gone through several industrial revolutions. During the first machine age, which was roughly around the end of the second industrial revolution, we started to see the rise in modern physics. In the atomic age, we saw the atomic bomb, the first transistor, the first computers. And the result of all that is that we were able to build machines that were supplementary and complementary to humans, that were able to take on some of the physical tasks that required handcraftship. The digital era that we're currently in is also sometimes considered and referred to as the second machine age. And during the second machine age, we're actually focused not just on creating programs that are able to supplement humans, but actually creating programs that are able to substitute human thought process, mental tasks. So what does this all mean for testing? So this is what I think about. This is what comes to mind when I think about software testing. And I think about us as testers. We are all severely overburdened. I don't know about your companies, but at least at my company, at Ultimate Software, in some cases, developers outnumber testers 10 to 1. And more, development teams are being asked to shorten that cycle time and to push to production more and more often. And I think this is creating a problem for us as testers. I'm already starting to see it, where we're falling behind. We're not able to keep up with these demands and these release pressures. And in many cases, we're not able to thoroughly test all of the features before they go out the door. That's getting increasingly more difficult. It's getting very hard for us to continue scaling. So think about that for a moment. And then think about AI and machine learning, and think about all of these technologies. And I want to challenge you. I want to challenge all of you to embrace the technology. Because seriously, so what if the AI can actually replicate and automate some of the tasks that I do today? And so what if the AI can actually generate some of the test cases that I have to sit down and manually create and design and automate and execute today? I welcome that wholeheartedly, because I think we're having a problem today where we cannot scale. And if the AI can take care of some of the work that we're doing today, then guess what? We can actually step back and focus on testing the things that really matter the most to our customers. We can actually step back and focus on making sure that every feature is well tested and making sure that we focus on the things that we know the AI cannot do today. And I guarantee you that there are things the AI cannot do today. Things that cannot be automated today. Like our intuition, our creativity, our ability to think outside of the box, our ability to innovate, our gut feeling, the things that make us human. You know, I'm sure you've all had a moment where you're staring at a problem and you just know what the right answer is or what the right choice is. And you just know what is not a good choice. But you can't really logically explain why you think that. You just do. And that's your gut feeling. That's what makes us human. Machines don't have this. It's that thing that makes you really look at something and question and say, hey, something is not quite right here. And that's what makes us all good testers. That's why we're so good at doing what we do, at breaking things. Because we know when something doesn't feel or look quite right, even if we can't explain it. All right. So, I want to talk about how to survive this AI testing apocalypse. But I wouldn't be able to sleep tonight. I really thought about this a long time. I wouldn't be able to sleep tonight if I didn't also give you some tips and survival guidance for how to survive the zombie apocalypse. Because let's face it, the zombies are going to come one day. So let's talk about these 6 steps. Step number 1, you need to prepare a kit, okay? For the zombie apocalypse, you need to have a 72-hour kit prepared and packed into a comfortable backpack, ready to go at a moment's notice, okay? You need water, you need food, iodine tablets, flashlights, batteries, first aid kit, you name it, it's in that kit. What about the testing apocalypse? Well, I think we also need a kit for testing and a kit for testing AI systems, packed into your toolbox, ready to go at a moment's notice. Take everything you know and everything you practice today, all of your testing approaches, all of our testing methodologies, heuristics, processes, patterns, frameworks, and tools, and keep them sharp, keep them handy, and put them in that toolbox. That's step number 1. Step number 2, keep in shape. For the zombie apocalypse, you know what they say. Cardio is the number 1 rule. When the ammo runs out, or you get caught off guard, you have to be able to outrun that zombie. Or at least you gotta be able to outrun that guy next to you. All right, so what about for the testing apocalypse? Same thing, keep in shape. The name of the game is cardio. You need to train, and you need to train yourselves hard. Learn as much as you can about AI and machine learning, and go out of your way to learn as much as you can about how to test AI and machine learning systems. And put it to practice. To survive, you just need to out-test the rest. You need to out-test the machines. On occasion, you're going to have to make sure you test smarter and not harder. So how do we keep in shape? How do we get started? How do we get started on training? Well, there are lots of courses out there for everyone. Actually, Kevin Piles yesterday in his talk from Zero to AI Hero shared with us a lot of information that we can use to get started learning this technology. We all need to make sure that we have an understanding of what AI is, what are some of the applications of AI, and what are some of the societal impacts of this technology. I encourage each and every one of you, when you go back home or go back to the office, to please take a look at some of these courses. At the very least, the AI for Everyone course from Coursera, which is actually a free course that you can take. And if you want to really become a pioneer in testing, and you want to learn this stuff even deeper, then take a look at these other courses that are also available. Machine learning, deep learning, and get started. I already talked about a lot of the companies that are working in this space. I want each and every one of you to stay up to date with what these companies are doing. Yesterday, we saw Jeremias come on stage and actually talk about Recheck and the fact that Recheck is open source. So there's no reason why anyone here should not go back home and check it out and try it and see for yourself what this technology can do and contribute back to it. That's how we're going to go along for the ride. Okay, this is one of my favorite ones. All right, this is where it gets cool. Step number 3, choose your weapons. Okay, back to the zombies. Got to keep eyes on the prize. Okay? Figure out your weapon of choice. They say the best way to kill a zombie is to decapitate it. So you want something sharp. You want an axe, you want a knife, a shovel, and if you can find a samurai sword, even better. Also, you can't ever have too much ammo. What about for that testing apocalypse? Well, figure out your weapon of choice. There are plenty of tools available for you today to actually get started on leveraging AI and machine learning. Whether you're someone that really wants to get into the nitty-gritty and go deep and understand the full tech stack, or you're someone who maybe hasn't really started with AI and you've never actually used it before, there's something out there for everyone at a variety of different levels. The important thing is to get started. In fact, if you follow any one of these steps that I'm going through, it's really about getting started. And it's about training yourself and choosing these weapons and learning what weapons are available at your disposal. So I'll share with you some of those things, some of those weapons. So the first thing I'll present to you is the AI fidget spinner. And I can't take credit for this term. I was actually working on this presentation, and my wife looked over my shoulder, and she says, "Hey, that looks like a fidget spinner." And I was like, "Yeah, you're right. I got to use that." So yeah, this is the AI fidget spinner. And really, this is just a conceptual tool. It's a tool that you can use to model the different types of machine learning that you can use and understand what are some of the use cases for each of these different types of technologies and algorithms. The AI fidget spinner. What about AutoML? So you've probably heard the term already. Yesterday, we've mentioned it a couple of times. But AutoML is actually a technology that Google is building that uses something called LTL, or learning to learn. So they're actually building AI that trains other AI systems. I know that sounds pretty meta, but that's exactly what AutoML is. So even if you don't know any of the technical details, even if you've never actually used an AI algorithm before, you can now go and check out this product that's currently available for you to use. It's still in beta, but you can use it today. And guess what you can do? You can open up AutoML Vision, and let's say you have an image classification problem, a computer vision problem. You can take your data, you can label your data, and then you can submit it to the AI. And Google's AI will actually figure out how to train another AI that is suitable for the problem that you've submitted to it. And it's not just for images. You can also do this with text. So you can take text classification, you can take user stories, you can take requirements, and you can start to experiment with them and start to use AutoML text classification to run ML algorithms on it. One of the more exciting recent additions to the AutoML suite of products is something called AutoML Tables. And with AutoML Tables, you can actually take structured information, such as that in an Excel spreadsheet or in a CSV file, and you can upload it to the system. And you can play around with that data, and you can use different machine learning algorithms and make predictions off of that data. And it's really easy to use. You don't need a background in AI to start using these tools. These tools are starting to reduce that level of entry, that barrier that is required to actually break into AI. So there's no excuse at this point. I want to once again encourage you, when you get back home, to go ahead and try AutoML. Take some of your data and explore the different algorithms that are available to you. And if you're a skeptic and you're maybe wondering, well, we have all these data scientists and all these machine learning engineers that are doing this job of creating this AI, how is it possible that some AI can actually outperform them at creating AI? Well, there's actually been some research that has shown that AutoML has outperformed even some of the best models that were created by data scientists for some problems. So AutoML itself and the learning to learn technology is actually also becoming very advanced. But what about applying all of this to testing? So myself and a few colleagues of mine over at Ultima Software created a Jupyter notebook. And if you've never used a Jupyter notebook before, it's basically an interactive tutorial where you can open it up on your browser and you can read through some tutorial content, and then you can actually try out a variety of different code examples right in your web browser without having to context switch. And that's exactly what we did. We created a Jupyter notebook that walks you through from the very beginning, assumes that you have no knowledge on this stuff, walks you through a tutorial on AI and machine learning, and then along the way, it has examples so that you can actually practice in Python. So Kevin talked to us about Python. Yes, Python is the predominant language for using and building machine learning algorithms. So you can actually write Python code right in your web browser and see it run. You can see the AI run and see what the input is, what the output is, and learn in the process. And then as a bonus, towards the later half of this notebook that we created, we actually show you how to take some of these techniques that you learned along in the notebook and apply them to testing. And you can actually download this notebook today. You can go to tinyurl.com/notebookAIST and get started. At Ultima Software, we've also open sourced a couple of the tools that we've built for AI and testing. The agent system and the agent X systems essentially provide you with a proof of concept, a prototype of a system that is able to autonomously explore a system under test and generate and execute test cases. Now, it's not perfect, but it's a foundation. It's something that I think we can all learn from, and that if you go home or go back to the office, I encourage you to download it. I encourage you to run it, and please star the repository. And I encourage you to learn from it and extend it. Make it better, and submit a pull request so that you can help the rest of the community. And it's not just Ultimate Software that's doing this. There are actually a lot of companies like Test.ai, Retest, that are open sourcing a lot of their work. Test.ai specifically partnered with Jonathan Lips to actually create an Appium plugin that allows you to do element-based or AI-based element selection. Guess what? You can actually download this plugin today, look at the source code, and they also open sourced the tools that you need to build your own classifier. So you've got all the tools that you need. All right, step number 4. Avoid dense population. Okay, so let's get back to these zombies. Get out of the highly populated areas when you're dealing with zombies, okay? Especially anywhere close to a hospital or a medical clinic. You don't want to be anywhere near that. Because when somebody's feeling sick, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to go to these places. What about the AI testing apocalypse? Once again, get out of these highly populated areas. There are certain aspects of testing that are going to be automated first. Let the bots swarm into those areas, and let the bots take those areas over, and let us focus on the areas where the bots will not be able to take over, at least not yet. And it's important to note that for the areas that will be automated first, the testing vendors that are working on these problems are going to spread to those areas the quickest. So it's kind of like your hospitals during the zombie apocalypse. So you want to avoid that. So what does this mean more concretely? Well, you can categorize, for the most part, any software defect into one of these 5 categories. A superficial issue is one like a crash or a 404 error that happens. A patternized defect is one that can be found with some algorithmic approach to testing, like boundary testing or equivalence class partitioning. An expectational defect is one that deviates from some norm that we have come to expect based on past experience. So I'll give you a simple example. Say there's a credit card number field. I'm sure we've all put in our credit card into one of these fields before. And if you put in an invalid credit card, guess what? You get an error message, or maybe you can't submit the form. This is an expectation that we have nowadays, basic validation. So an expectational defect is one that deviates from that doesn't behave as we expect in those common cases. But then there are some more complex types of defects, like functional defects, the ones that we are really good at finding. Does the software actually do what it's supposed to do and nothing else, based on its specifications, based on its requirements? That's the stuff we're really good at. And then the deeper kind of defects, like are there race conditions? Are there concurrency problems in the applications that we're testing? I think that the first surge of these testing bots is going to attack the top 3. The testing bots are going to focus on superficial, patternized, and expectational defects. And they're going to get really good at that, I think. So what that means is that we have to avoid these bots. We have to let them run rampant and do their thing because they're there to help us so that we can focus on those functional issues, those deeper types of problems. All right, almost at the finish line here in terms of the steps. Number 5, assemble your team. For the zombie apocalypse, you need a few key players on your team. You need a strong leader, a medical professional, someone who is wise and can give good counsel, a warrior to protect the group, a caregiver who can comfort everyone, and maybe somebody to crack some jokes every once in a while. For the AI testing apocalypse, you need to assemble your team, architects, quality engineers, data scientists. There are many roles and many different folks that can contribute to solving these kinds of problems, not just to understand how AI is impacting our world, but how do we actually leverage AI for testing, and how do we test systems that use AI? Join the community and contribute wherever possible. I encourage you to go ahead and join the AI for Software Testing Association, where you can go to aitesting.org and sign up for the newsletter. This association was founded by Tariq, who's here with us, our program chair, and Jason Arbin. And if you join the newsletter, you'll be up to date. You'll be receiving emails with the latest and greatest in terms of research in AI and testing. All right, last step. Make a good stronghold. During the zombie apocalypse, this is all about finding shelter and a good stronghold and making sure that you're close to water and a good food source. For the AI testing apocalypse, it's really just about realizing that it's not about any one of us as an individual, it's about organizations as a whole. If you're a leader at your organization, I encourage you to please create the space for your testers to innovate. Let them experiment with this technology. I guarantee you that there will be failures. Without a doubt, I guarantee it. But amongst those failures, there will be some successes. And it's those successes that will help you propel your organization forward. So in summary, prepare a kit, keep in shape, choose your weapons, avoid dense population, assemble your team, and make a good stronghold. So my question to you is, are you going to survive this AI testing apocalypse, or are you going to thrive in it? And I need you to thrive in it. And the reason I need you is because there's an even bigger problem that's ahead of us, and an even bigger challenge. And that is, how do we actually test systems that use AI? So if we're actually capable of creating superhuman intelligence, then who's going to be around to test it? It's us. And that's why I think that the testing role is not going anywhere. The testing role is here to stay because somebody has to make sure that the AI is working as expected. And who better to do that than all of us who have been doing this work of testing and who are really good at breaking things. So I need you to thrive in this apocalypse, and I need you to follow these steps so that you can come along with me on this journey. I want to leave you with one last quote, also by Dr. Ng. He says, "Deep learning is a superpower. With it, you can make a computer see, synthesize novel art, translate languages, render a medical diagnosis, or build pieces of a car that can drive itself. If that isn't a superpower, I don't know what is." I think we are superheroes. So use anything at your disposal and be proud of it. Let deep learning, let AI be your superpower. So yes, AI is here. AI is everywhere. AI is important. It's not going anywhere. But if we play our cards right and we follow these rules, then neither are we. Thank you.
Almost perfect timing, and we have a lot of really good questions, so let's see them.
All right. Oh, I love this one. So why do we always assume that AI will replace testers first? What about developers? So I actually think that it's going to be a close race. I think that it's very possible, and I showed you an example of AI that writes code. I think it's very possible that we're going to see AI writing programs before we figure out how to do all this AI testing business to begin with. So I think it's going to be a close race. Do you consider Asimov's laws of robotics when you think about the technological apocalypse? Yes, I think so, and I think it really starts to get into these exponential curves, right? So we saw Jeff Meyer actually give us a presentation on these exponential curves and what we think will be replaced first when it comes to AI and testing. And first, we're going to do things that are basic, and then things that are thoughtful, and then things that are context-aware. So I don't want to necessarily, with this presentation, I don't want you to walk away and thinking that I think all of this is going to happen very quickly. I think this is going to happen, absolutely. I think AI is going to get very smart, but I can't say precisely how long it's going to take. I don't think any of us can, right? The important thing is to just be aware that AI is growing, that it's going to continue growing, and we need to make sure that we just stay on top of it, and that we continue to sharpen our skills. Will AI be able to find bugs within its code and auto-fix all issues? So this is a really interesting question. So for AI to be able to find bugs in its own code and in itself, then it really needs to be able to monitor itself. And it needs to be able to essentially run tests on its own data and on its own model using self-testing. And I think once we get to that point where AI can actually perform self-testing, then perhaps, yes, the next step to that, the next evolution, is for the AI to reconfigure itself, or to perhaps toss away some information or some data that caused it to deviate off course. So yes, I think it will be able to. Why is AI always presented as army robots? I don't know. I think it's because all these Terminator movies have really just conditioned us to believe that that's how it's all going to end. Okay, at what point do you think safety restrictions should be imposed on AI research and development? Wow, this is a really good question. I think it should be imposed as of yesterday, to be honest. And there are actually lots of really bright minds looking at this problem. I showed you a quote by Dr. Jeffrey Hinton. He has some really good talks on exactly precisely this. How do we build safety restrictions? How do we build guardrails into the AI so that we can keep it in check, so that we can keep it in control? So I encourage you, if you're really interested in this, to go look at some of his talks and see what he has to say about that. Also, isn't AI dependent on electrical power? Can AI handle all the analog technology out there, such as old school technologies? Yes, I think that AI is pervasive. Like Dr. Andrew Ng said himself, AI is the new electricity. It depends on the existing electricity, but AI is the new electricity. It allows us to tackle problems in ways that we've never tackled them before, in ways that simulate how a human tackles a problem. So yes, whether it's an old school problem or a new problem, I think that AI is here to help us, and I think that it's very promising in what it's going to be able to accomplish in the coming years. And I think we're out of time.